open. I didn't get to Twitch the first time right away when you sent it. Like I said, guys, I do have a glare coming in on some of the phone screens, depending on how the sun's coming through from the left there. So bear with me. Hey, Tommy, good to see you. Now, guys, for those of you that are joining or just jumping in, we are all but at our destination, going into Nashua, New Hampshire today. We're covering an event, a presentation on the Great Reset, what it is, what it looks like, what we can do. That is going to start in about half an hour, guys, and we're going to be there in about 12 minutes. I see Kick, I see D Live. Beautiful. So very exciting, guys. We are almost there. Says we're just under or just over 7.5 miles out. So we will be there in no time. Yep. We're headed to New Hampshire. Started in Rhode Island this morning. We did Rhode Island and then Massachusetts. Now we're in New Hampshire. Beautiful. We have arrived in the state, guys. How awesome is that? And we are going to be covering this, like I said, this presentation today on the Great Reset. I am super excited. I really am looking forward to the information that's going to be presented. I hope you guys had a chance. Like I said, make sure you get your bathroom breaks in, get your snacky snacks, get your drink, get a notepad, get a pen. Make sure you're ready to take some notes. This is going to be an amazing presentation today. I cannot wait. I'm really excited to see what kind of a plan that they've come up with on how to get involved on the local and state level. So this is going to be very exciting, like what we can do as individuals. So super exciting. All right. Winter weather Sunday. Plan ahead. Oh, nice. That's cool. It's like a warning label on the highway. All right. We're going to get over because it looks like we have just under 3 miles, but I kind of rather chill in this lane than fight everybody because it looks like we're running into a little bit more traffic again. No idea. Oh, this is great. Vikram. Never heard of them. That's interesting. Vikram for Congress. I wonder who they are and if they, I don't know that they won, but, or I'd probably know that. Still behind me. Okay, we just keep going straight here for a little bit, it looks like. It's a cute little town. There's one of those fight Trump flags in the window of that house. There were some cool skeletons sitting in a couple of lawn chairs at the other one. I didn't see what their t-shirts said, but traffic light here. It says go straight 3. Okay. So it looks like we go through this 1, 2, 3 lights. Okay. It has me going straight. I don't know. It tells me to go straight. So I'm not really sure what that is. Yeah, it's telling me to go straight through here, so. Holy macaronis. La la. Let's see. 100 feet. So we've got this light, the next light, around the bend, and there's another traffic light. We go straight. Okay. All right. Nurse D, the Great Reset. So that's like your sustainable development, 15-minute cities, digital ID kind of things, all of that kind of stuff rolled into one. Let me just keep an eye out for these folks that are all walking here. We don't want to run anybody over. Okay. Oh, whoops. We went straight here. Okay. this light, and then 2 stop signs. Okay. We are almost there, guys. This is actually very exciting. Again, the presentation starts in like 20 minutes or so. Doors open in about 8 or so, I think it is. I think they said the doors open at 1:15. So, super excited again to have you guys along. And this is just awesome. Straight ahead. Okay. That's the library. All right. So now we just gotta find parking for said library. Is that's reserved parking? I don't even know. Not a through street. Okay. Can we park in here? I don't know. I am gonna pull in here for a hot minute because I'm not sure. So let me see. Let me talk to Wayne. Oh, public parking. All right, reserved parking there. That's public parking. Are there 2 spaces? Do you want to take this one? Is there one right there too? Public parking right there? Because these 2 are reserved. That one's open. Is there one right on the other side there? I can't see. No? What? Back where? Those are all reserved. Those are all reserved parking. Do you want to maybe take the lead and see if you can't find us some parking? I'll follow you. Do you want to take the lead around the block or whatever? See if you can't find us some parking? I can't hear you.
Good point. I'll take the reserve.
What?
I'll take the reserve parking.
What do you mean you'll take the... What, you're just going to park there anyway?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll pull in over here, I guess.
Yep.
All right. Right in. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, I know, Jerry, I know. Yeah, no, it was definitely not an easy space to get into here. That is for sure, for sure. But we have made it. We've made it. So definitely excited. I am going to try and get myself together here just a little bit. And so bear with me. And we're going to see what we can find out, try and get up to the library there so we can get you guys situated so we can get to this event and get it started on time. So again, we have about 15 minutes, so we're going to try and make our way up there. So just give me a few minutes, guys. Just straighten out my life here. But I wanted this. I wanted this. Not that. That stuff's all good there. In case he needs them. This. Okay. That can stay here. This wallet here. Okay. These are tops to, you know what? Put them in the backpack. Scarf out. Hat out. Okay, that's the battery pack. Tops. I can zip this up and put that right in there. Because I can just go right in there. Beautiful. Look at that. Life's good. Okay. Now, let's see. Cords. Oops. Okay, so. Ouch. Cord one. Okay. cord 4. All right, I just need that. So, balance leash. Gimbal. That might be important. Okay. All right, let me do this. Let me take this and put it in my pocket. Take this and put it in my pocket. So I need those. I'm going to leave you guys hang out here for 1 second until I... Oh, Wayne, you know what? I'm going to leave you my keys, too, so if you need anything for him. And I got to pay parking. Yeah, I got to pay parking, though. We got to pay parking on the cars. I mean, we can do it with an app, but we got to pay parking. Well, I'll do it. Okay, well, I still got to pay for my parking. That's all right. Do you want my keys so that you can get into the truck if you need?
How long am I staying out here?
I don't know. That's up to you. I mean, you can put him in my truck. Just put the window down a little bit, and we'll have to come check on him every so often. All right. I'm grabbing you guys. Hopefully. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, if you wanna.
I'm just gonna walk him around a bit so that he gets.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
He hasn't peed yet, but you're saying it's that building?
Yeah, it's the library, so I gotta clip these fast so they're not flying out on me as I'm walking. Oh my gosh, the poor everybody on they're probably seeing sideways. I don't know where that's at right now, so I guess I'm not looking for that at the moment. All right. Wayne, if you want to clip him in here at all, I'll flip this up. Just clip his seatbelt in there in the middle and then flip the thing down.
Okay.
I'll leave this unlocked.
Okay.
Here's my keys. Oh, shit. Oops. Yeah, sugar. Not the right word. All right, let me take a picture of this so I can pay for it in a second. Okay.
It's the weekend.
Oh, do you have to pay on the weekend? Oh, Monday through Friday. Nope. Okay, good. Even better yet. All right. Wayne, I'm headed up.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, guys. We're going up the hill now. We're a bit of a mess, but it's okay. We're just going right over here, I think, so. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. All right, so let me flip you guys around and actually just show you. This is so pretty. While we're outside here. trying to manage the 2 tripods, my backpack. I'm glad Wayne has the dog, so we can, like I said, chuck this all out together. I do not have you on the gimbal yet, so I apologize as we bounce all over the place. But this is going to be cool. Oh, no. Hey, Wayne. Can you look in the back of my truck for our leg of the tripod? It looks like it popped off. There's like a black leg on the tripod. This one, the leg popped off. Oh, I just realized it now. The leg popped off on this tripod. If you can find it in the back of the truck and bring it in then, maybe. If not, not the end of the world. I got 2. All right. I can't see your comments either, guys, because that phone's in my pocket. So, I apologize. I'm having a day already. All right. Okay. Pretty though. There's supposed to be like a presentation today on the Great Reset. Can you tell me where that's going to be?
Just right on the other side of this brick wall, straight down and to the left.
Down and to the left. Thank you. All right, guys. Here we go. Down. All right, restrooms are there. Good to know. They're inside the library. How cool. All right, down here. I'm assuming they mean theater. I would guess there's some more restrooms there. And to the left. Yeah, so I would assume it's down here somewhere. Very cool. Hi.
Hey. What are you looking for?
What was that?
What are you looking for?
There's supposed to be a presentation today. I'm thinking it's.
There is more over here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just. Oh, okay. Thanks. Meeting rooms. Oh, meeting. I was looking for a presentation today.
Well, I know Karen's at that desk right there. Her name is Karen, and I'm sure she'd be able to. I'm not sure. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
No, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Oh, yeah. This might be it. Hi.
Hi there.
I'm looking for a presentation today on the Great Reset.
Sure, it's in the far right corner of this area.
Over there, those
Yeah.
windows there? Awesome. Thank you. All right, guys. Very cool. So, here we are. And like I said, I can't see your comments, so. Hi, guys. Very cool. Hi. I'm Cherise from Soup Mama Official. I had contacted Chris, I believe it was. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I know I'm in the right place then.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Because I did send out 2 different flyers.
Okay. Somebody told it was today here, so here I am.
Oh, all right. All right.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
Cherise. Nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you,
Yes.
Cherise.
Everybody calls me Soup Mama.
Soup Mama?
Yeah. Now my buddy Wayne, I have my dog with me, so he's outside with the dog. He'll be popping in and checking on the dog and stuff for me. I do have. We're actually live right now. Just so you know. Yeah. I've been live for the drive. Yeah. Well, yesterday I drove from Pennsylvania to Rhode Island. Today, Rhode Island to here. So they've been hanging out for the drive. But hello. Oh, hang on. Let me give me one second here. We're gonna. Okay, guys, sorry about the delay there with the microphone. I just needed to confirm some things before we got everything going. And, all right, guys, I will be back in just a few minutes. I'm going to let you chill here in the room. We're going to zoom in on that screen for you. Because, again, that is, whoops. This is the event for today. So I will be back with you guys very, very, very soon. All right. Let's do this. Oh, for pity's sakes. Okay, this, grab this. All right. I will be right back.
Absolutely, feel free to get some water. I'm Fred, now who are you?
And I'll never forget.
Did I do something I
And I gave you a big.
Yeah. We're talking about people who kind of like everybody can read the front of I got my favorite. I bought it. I haven't opened it yet. Okay. I picked a lot of you to sit there. Anyway, okay, 85 essays. The average length is around 5 days. We disagree on Tuesday. If you only read one essay a day, you know, it's a lot easier. Instead of feeling like you're reading a book, read it as individual. Yeah. I like that. And so anyways, I started out, and then I said, well, hi, how are you? I gotta take notes. How about you? And so I started taking notes. Yeah. I read 2 of the essays. Sorry. And, you know, is that?
Good, how are you?
Wayne, nice to meet you, Wayne. Feel free to sit wherever you like. If you like a table in front of you, we have some of those. We've got some snacks, we've got some free literature, a sign-in sheet if you don't mind. You don't have to. But...
Oh, no problem. I'm actually with the girl that.
Oh, okay, she's in the restaurant.
59 or 69% do not agree with second term. So the majority of Americans only agree with this LD 227 not only allowed that late term abortion, but it also allowed for people to bring a child into our state of Maine and have them transition at the cost of the taxpayer without parental knowledge or consent. That is wild to me, and that's when that bill passed through our legislature. I was like,
What's that?
I didn't know it like this.
Yeah.
Where does the canal connect? We got just got engaged last year.
I believe it's part of the national.
We got married maybe a month ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
My uncle lived in Nashville.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a lot of
Signing their death sentence and being slaves to the system.
I think the
Water source for all the.
I think the Nashville River goes into the Merrimack.
I believe so.
Yeah, because where else would it go?
Right.
And in the Merrimack.
Okay. Yeah.
You going to read that?
Yes, I'm
Is that, do I read from this that the Junks group has either fed into or is feeding into what was remains of the John Burke Society? Is there a John Burke Society still?
Yes, sir.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah. Charlie here has been a member. How long have you been a member, Charlie?
Couple of weeks.
Couple weeks.
Well, I grew up in King,
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything.
Well, they were on Concord Avenue in Belmont, and then they moved to Elton, Wisconsin.
1988, 1980, I'm not sure what year, anyway. And,
But there is still a John Birch.
Right.
yeah. And, what do you think all this stuff is?
Well, I have no idea. When she said she's taking me to the great reset.
Hello guys, hello, Henry Banks here. So I'm sure we have nothing and super excited. Again, this is going to be a great presentation today.
Okay.
Okay, so we got that one plugged in.
I always like when I learn to be
Gimbal into. Oh, I have a bunch of them, yeah, I'm good. But thank you. Do this.
Who knows?
Plug this in
So you remember World War II?
so that that's charging.
I remember, there was only one World War. There was in the 1940s. There was never a World War I in the 1940s. Only place in the Champagne wine regions of.
And then we're going to plug in these comments so I can keep you guys live with me.
It was never a war. Yes.
But
The only war we've ever had, the only World War
I
we've ever
believe
had.
we are going to be getting started here in just a moment, guys.
the Great War.
That's the way this is looking, so I'm going to flip this around for you. And again, this is a presentation on the Great Reset today.
Well, anyway, do you remember what they do with tin cans? What did they do with tin cans? Tin cans.
All right, everybody, how you all doing? These are my computer glasses, so I can't see you,
Yeah, see?
because I can't see you. So let's go ahead and get started with a prayer, if you don't mind, for all who would like to join us. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together today. We hope that you teach us charity that comes with loving you and your Son, Jesus Christ. We hope that we can create new friendships here today, and that we are meeting together with an open mind and open hearts towards one another. And we ask this in Jesus' name, amen. So, my name is Matthew Rhodes. I'm the field coordinator for the John Birch Society. My territory includes Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. So I have most of New England except for Connecticut. And so today what I'm going to present to you is what I titled The Great Reset in Hampshire. There's significant changes that are happening to our form of government, and they affect every state differently, but they also affect our way of life. So what I do is I craft a presentation that's tailored to your state, what's going on there. But I have to give you some background information. Mostly what I'll be talking about today is the different forms of government, collectivism versus, a constitutional republic. And so I'll go ahead and get started. So in 1958, in the Blue Book of the John Birch Society, Robert Welch talks about the greatest enemy of man and always has been government, and the larger, more extensive that government, the greater the enemy. Now this isn't an aspersion to government. The right amount of government makes us all freer. But generally governments tend to grow, and that's what this is about. So in 1776, our founders wrote the Declaration of Independence, and there's a list of freedoms in there. And this shows you what the intent of our government was. It was definitely not the intent to have a large, out-of-control government that was controlling the lives of people, taxing them into an existence that made them servants of that government. And so in that Declaration of Independence, the founding fathers wrote that he has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hitherto swarms of officers to harass our people and get our substance. He was talking about the king. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving us assent to their acts of pretended legislation.
all these points have to do with today's presentation. And for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, and for imposing taxes on us without our consent. So this presentation is about that we approach that point again in our country. So this is about the rise of collectivism. Collectivism is a natural state by which all societies tend to. They tend to, government get larger, they get more complicated, and so it's a natural tendency. What Robert Walsh was talking about, this was an enforced tendency. This was not something that was occurring naturally. And so this is what we're talking about. Governments generally will collapse under their own weight. They always have. Historically, you can look at the rise and fall of various civilizations in such books like Jacques Bourgeon's From Dawn to Decadence. There's a certain time period, every 500 years, you'll see this, the government just getting larger and larger, and suddenly it just collapses. And so most governments has grown out of too much, most bad governments grown out of too much government, and this is Thomas Jefferson again. Collectivism, by definition, is social and political philosophy that emphasizes the importance of group over the individual. It advocates for collective action, shared responsibility, and the idea that resources, decisions, and power should be distributed among the community and society as a whole rather than being concentrated in the hands of individuals. And you'll see as we go why this is not a good thing. So again, Robert Walsh says that, excuse me, sort of evidently right in the case of every civilization that we know about, that both the Greek and Roman civilization did perish from the cancer of collectivism. So the collectivism is a natural cancer that happens to every society. Not a good or bad statement, it's just a fact. So at one time, so what's different now is that at one time, early philosophers would talk about, and scholars would talk about man, and his problems, the problems of man, his place in the universe, his purpose, how he should relate to the world around him, and how he should behave in relation to the real or imagined deities that he created. And so this was, man, discussed, the problems that he had, how he should solve his issues around him. But a sudden change happened in our society with Darwin, and he wrote this book called The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. And so philosophers began discussing man as a problem. Man was now just an apex predator, as one of the created creatures, just like, any other animal. And so we started looking at ways of controlling man, just like we would control animals. And so man was causing problems, like we would say we had an infestation, a flea infestation of some kind. And you see that a lot, there's too many people. So in about, right after Charles Darwin writes this, you start seeing this influx of philosophies that try to deal with this man as a problem issue. And so this guy by the name of Frederick Soddy wrote this book called Wealth, Virtual Wealth, and Debt. And this is where we get the origins of carbon credits. He talks about all the requirements of pre-scientific men were met out of the solar energy of their own time. I won't read the whole thing, but basically he starts talking about sunshine credits, sunshine units. And that's where we get carbon credits from. The idea that man is only allowed to consume what he's taking from the environment. And so this makes man in the relative position of the cosmos, he's now like a compost. He's, what is he as part of the environment? And so you see that now, the technocrats love this guy at the time, and you could read about sunshine units. In fact, George Carlin has a skit about like sunshine units and stuff like that. He's talking about the fun terms that the government comes up with. But it's a real thing. And so right after, we start seeing man as, being like this part of the, apex predator, he's this person that's consuming stuff, like it's almost like, man started being viewed like, well, how many dogs do we have and how many kibbles and bits bags do we have to go and buy? That's basically what carbon credits are. This is what you're allowed to use and consume. And they started looking at man as like that's where the carbon footprint idea comes from. And so right after him, you start seeing people like Margaret Sanger talking about eugenics and racism, because now, well, Charles Darwin said there are some races that are good and some races that are bad. And so she, in one of her books, she writes, we don't want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it may occur to any of their more rebellious members. So right away, we start seeing this idea of racial superiority. Now, people used to think they were superior before. You had different races that believed that they were, sanctioned by God to do certain things. But this became very, very specific, that we were going to now morally sanction a certain type of behavior. And you see this all throughout the United States. Here was a guy by the name of George Keenan. George Keenan was the ambassador to the Soviet Union in 1952 under Harry S. Truman, who was the Canadian Union. 1949, he was also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. In 1932, he wrote, I cannot see why it is wrong in principle. We have a group of more or less inferior races. No amount of education and discipline can effectively improve their conditions as long as we allow them to breed copiously to preserve their young. And as late as 1984, he's saying things like, well, then men having spawned more than 2 children should be compulsively sterilized. So right away, we went from the origin of species and man being decoupled from his place in the universe with a creator, with a soul. For whatever religion it was a psychical shock for all of mankind that, suddenly we don't have a creator, we're just a creature. And so right away, everybody starts looking at, well, okay, we don't have a God that we're accountable to, and so what should our behavior be? It's no longer guided by the moral principles that we had before, because apparently God doesn't exist. So that is, so by 1945, 1943, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing, you start seeing like ethnic cleansing of Jews in Germany. And so this is, you see a pattern here over the 20th century. And then you start seeing democide just coming up all around the world. China, 1949 to 1987. It no longer is, it's cheaper to kill your own people that disagree with you than it is to, go to war and, you have to invent airplanes and cars or whatever, and tanks. Now you can just kill the people that disagree with you, and it's okay because they're an inferior race. And most of the leaders of this country, were members of the United Nations. So this is behavior that has been sanctioned by the United Nations. My friend William Jasper was a reporter. These people were, what's the guy's name? Kofi Annan with the Democratic Kampuchea. He was welcomed and applauded. He said, I've exterminated, I cleaned my fields, I've made way for what we want. So clearly, at a certain point, government is not the friend of people. It will kill you for any reason it seems necessary to gain its wishes. So, you had Yugoslavia, they were members of the United Nations, leader Joseph Broz Tito, you had China, you had Mao Zedong. So, these are people that were praised, members of the United Nations.
Could I interrupt to just get a definition of democide?
Okay, I can answer questions at the end. I'm not going to stop. I have a lot of material to get through, okay? Democide is where your country kills its own people. That's democide. So, like just so everybody knows, I don't stop like during the presentation. You have questions, you can write them down, and I'll be more than happy at the end to answer your questions or have a discussion. So by 1987, the UN writes this document called Our Common Future. And in this book, Sustainable Development is born. And in sustainable development is defined that development that meets the needs of current generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So go back to the idea of sunshine units and carbon credit. The idea is that you're only going to use that which your person could possibly consume, and they're going to determine what you're allowed to consume and use. So the only way to protect the earth, it says, is to expand government control over private property, Marxism, to manage men's interactions with the environment, and redistribute personal and global wealth. So, and this is the lady that wrote Our Common Future, where sustainable development ideas came from, and she was the was the head of the Socialist Party in, for UNSED, I'm sorry, what country? Really kind of spotty today. It's a glasses thing. Anyway, so this is the lady that wrote this book. She was an advisor at UNSED in 1987. And Reagan was president at the time, just to give you a perspective. Ronald Reagan was a Republican president, was in office. And so Agenda 21 is a mammoth document adopted at UNSED in 1992, United Nations Conference on Environment Development, that to micromanage every person on Earth. That's actually in the document. You can look it up. Nothing that I have here is, stuff that I'm making up. I use source material for this, so you can check it. The most important thing that you have to understand is that they desire to control all human activity. And so, who is the enemy? So remember we talked about democide and eugenics and stuff like that. Well, according to the Club of Rome, which is an environmentalist group, their statement was that mistaking symptoms for causes, although these dangers are caused by human intervention in natural processes, and it's only through change, attitudes and behavior that can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. So now we have one group of people saying that we have to control all human activity, all private property, and now we have another organization saying that the real enemy that we have to fight now is humanity itself. And so it's you are the enemy, you are the problem. This is by their own statements. And so this isn't stuff I made up. So in summary, to the globalists, to a people that look at a collectivized form of government, man is a commodity, man is an inconvenience. And governments will generally slaughter their own citizens by the millions for any reason they decide, and human life has no value because there are too many humans. You hear that all the time. I grew up with this idea, there's too many of us, the planet is so crowded, we don't have enough food, and stuff like that. And massive international organizations want to systematically control all human activity. It's not that hard to see if you make the case that there are people that believe in controlling all human activity. And so, I'm not saying whether or not that's good or bad. I'm saying it's clear that there are organizations that want to do this. So, our government began to change, and this guy, Charles Merriam, he started studying around like the late 1800s. He's actually a student of Ralph Waldo Emerson. He is the author of Reconstruction of City Government, a really good book. I would suggest you read. It's really short. He drafted FDR's New Deal. He created the Reorganization Act of 1939. He was part of the Brown Book Committee. He designed the EOP, the Executive Office of the Presidency. And he was the author of the Administrative Procedures Act. And with this one man, the entire nature of our government was completely changed. And so this is what I would call the rise of the administrative state. It's not about, some people look at all this stuff as evil, good, and so I'm going to have you guys not look at it as much as that, as this is a different form of government than what we knew that we were handed to by our founding fathers. He believed in, this guy, Charles Merriam, in his book on history of American political theories, he believed rights and liberties both come from the state. He believed the ultimate end of the state is defined by perfection of humanity, the apotheosis of man. And he did not believe in limited government at all. He said the only limitation on government action are those dictated by experience or the needs of the time. So this is where America becomes, instead of you have certain rights, unalienable rights given to you by God, it becomes, you have rights that are only what are expedient to the needs of the time. Excuse me. And in the Reconstruction of City Government, 1917, this is to give you a good idea to the mindset of this man. He said that the obligations of citizenships are particularly strong upon those of wealth and education. And he believed that labor and care of others have been our guides, but in a particular sense, some are social debtors. For the hoarding of society have been lavished upon them in most liberal measures. these opportunities have been given by society for its own protection and welfare for the advancement of the common good. So what is he saying there? He's saying in a very simple way, he's saying, we're a privileged class, and it's our job to take care of everybody. And so some people call that class the oligarchical class, ruling class, but in his mind, our job is to manage the affairs of people. So because we've received so much benefit from our state and life. And so he's calling on the professional class of people. He's calling on doctors and lawyers, and instead of people that are going to follow the Constitution, people that are people of good moral character, he's going to call on everybody. And so the constitutional system goes out the door, like you said, you read the book yourself, you see it there. So what we ended up with, through all these these changes in our government, we lost what are known as checks and balances. With the advent of the New Deal and the creation of the EOP and the Administrative Procedures Act, which we still have in place, by the way, nobody's trying to get rid of it. Even everybody that says they're a constitutionalist, we used to have what we would call layer cake federalism. There were checks and balances between each layer, between the federal, state, and the city, town, whatever. But instead, we have what's now known as marble cake federalism. And what that means is that all the wishes of the government are shot through at every level of the government, and there are no checks and balances to what the federal government can do. And in the situation for this class, we are talking about us now being influenced by the United Nations, about large organizations that are now entering their systems into these kind of runways that have occurred in our government to affect our policy. Laws foreign to our government. You saw that in the Declaration of Independence. These are taxes that are being done without our consent, especially through the planning boards, especially through, but we'll go into that. So the Administrative Procedures Act was an act to improve the administrative justice by describing fair administrative procedures. No one at the time ever questioned whether or not this was constitutional. No one ever said, was this, allowed in our Constitution? They believed, with Charles Muir himself, that this is about, we're here to take care of people. We need these things. The government has to have them in order to carry out their business. And it's around this time that people, started looking at government as a business, as a corporation. How often do you hear people talking? They say, he's the right man for the job. He knows what he's doing. He's going to fix everything for us. That's how we don't think in terms of, is he a moral person? Is he going to follow the Constitution? Is he going to protect our God-given rights? We don't think that way anymore. We look for the guy that's going to solve all of our problems and give us the most benefit to what we're doing. So this is how our government is completely changed. And you hear it all the time when people go to vote. They don't care about the Constitution as long as their hero is going to get them the things that they need. And so the Reorganization Act in 1939 created the Executive Office of the Presidency and was transferred power from Congress to the Presidency. So that's why a Convention of States will not work. A Convention of States doesn't work because Congress has no power to control federal agencies that are under the President. Okay, so that's why when they say, oh, we're going to bring back state rights, you're not going to bring back state rights because we have a marble cake federalism. They're controlling every level of our lives. So the people that get excited about Convention of States, they love quick fixes, but they don't understand what has happened to our structure of our government. So prior to this act, Congress had significant oversight and structure of federal agencies, and now they don't. So literally, the president could, by executive order, cancel out all federal agencies, and no president has ever done that. And I don't know if we'll see that ever happen in our lifetime. And just as a side note, to realize that this was a overwhelmingly Republican decision, in the story. This wasn't, so when we get into this dichotomy of Republican and Democrat, it means nothing to progressivists in terms of controlling the course of our lives and how we live. And so this is just another slide. Agencies with their authority to issue regulations. I'm trying to figure out a way to make this bigger. That didn't help at all. Hold on a second. Bear with me a second. this is basically saying that there's a federal registry, so a federal agency is obligated to prove that what it's doing is not usurping authority of the states and stuff, and things like that. And so they do have rules. It's, they have, there's committees to decide whether or not something is constitutional. Whether or not every time a federal agency abides by this, these regulations is, another story. It's not clear if they do or not. But it's one of the reasons why we have what's going on now with the processing of grants and the loaning of money at the small towns, because the federal government doesn't have the authority to force states to take money. They don't have that authority. It was never granted to them. So what they do is they do an end run around sovereignty, and they say, well, we're going to just get you to give up the permissions that you didn't have. So they say, well, here's some grant money. Now we have this big plan of globalism, and now you have to follow it. You have to do it. So then around that time too, Charles Marion's time, this was early 19th century, you had the idea of the town manager came along. And so again, this was, they always say it was to, to protect, corruption in government. You did have like this merit-based system where people in political parties, it was almost became like ruling classes of families that were automatically given prestige. So there was definitely corruption at the time. But the answer to that was let's subvert the selectmen, the town board, the local government, and hire town managers. And you see that is the most common form of government today. And this was under Frederick Winslow Taylor. So significant change in our form of government with the checks and balances. So the council manager system is a form of government which is common to most Americans in most towns in America. And and it makes sense that this would be an easy way for globalists to institute policies like the World Economic Forum or Agenda 2030, because now they just the policies that are set forth by them, although the town manager only is an implementer and it's approved by the the planning committee, there's still no there's no way for the people to regulate the outsourcing of responsibility. And so this is a very dangerous form of government, but it's very common, and that's why you see this Agenda 2030 plan going through all over the country very easily. So, again, just like the American Procedures Act has these guides and rules about how to influence local government and whatnot, so does this sustainable development. The people that work for the World Economic Forum, Wiley Publishing is their research panel, and they talk about rule intermediation, the role of organizations to adopt and reject and regulatory rulemaking. They want their program in your town, and how they do this is they teach your state legislators, and we'll show you more later on about how to do this, how to implement their plan. And so you can go online, you can look up this magazine, and you can get on their website, and you can read all their research manuals, and they're constantly working every day to implement Agenda 2030 at the town level. And so the globalist grooming strategies of World Economic Forum are, so that little research paper that I showed you, that will show up on this portion of the World Economic Forum website with a bio about what they did. So because they're going to get resistance, people don't want to do it. So this is their way of saying, hey, we figured it out, we worked our way around it, and look at what we did. So they groom people. So let's look at what Klaus Schwab said himself. He said that every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed. And Schwab, calling for an even stronger, more effective government, we must build entirely new foundations for our economic and social systems. Now these are his words, and I started out this whole presentation myself. You read gobs, you listen to gobs of stuff on the internet all the time, and you go, what does this mean? What is he possibly talking about? So honestly, this whole presentation was made for me to understand what these people were talking about, because they said, well, what is he talking about, economic and social systems? Well, so we'll go into that in a second. But the Great Reset Initiative is an economic recovery plan set up by the World Economic Forum in response to the COVID epidemic. And its initiative stated aim is to facilitate rebuilding from the global COVID crisis in a way that prioritizes sustainable development. So now we know that the whole world is geared towards, we're going to rebuild, we're going to come out of the ashes, and these are going to be the values and principles by, how we govern ourselves, how we believe. And so I just want to tell you that if you don't know what a social system is, social systems are what, Al? Tell me what a social system is. An example.
Communism, democracy.
It could be anything. It could be your chess club. It could be your Tupperware club. It could be anything.
Can you go back to the screen before? I want to take a picture.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna go back.
Oh, okay.
I'll do
All right.
it later.
Okay, thank you.
So social systems are the things that, our churches, the way we interact with each other in our daily lives. He wants to change that. And so, nations, stuff like that. And then he says he wants to change our economic systems as well. So by his own words, by the definition, by his admissions, he's saying, I want to change everything about everything you know. So economic systems always deal with what kinds and quantities of goods shall be produced. Schwab wants to take care of that. How goods shall be produced, how the output will be distributed, and when to produce. So by his own words, he wants to be part of the system and control it. He wants to, and so you have different economic systems. You have capitalism, you have socialism, you have communism, you have distributism, which I think is actually the fairest one, and feudalism. And once again, this is from their website, World Economic Forum. The UN document Sustainable Development Goals also calls on governments to seize control over production and consumption. Okay? It prescribes government-controlled healthcare systems for all too. Meeting Sustainable Development Goals is essential for the future of humanity, explained Schwab at the time. The World Economic Forum is committed to supporting this effort and working with the United Nations to build a more prosperous and equitable future. Schwab then I try to explain this to people. He's not the guy in charge of everything, but he's working for the UN. That's who he is. He's just a useful tool. And so, how did they do this? Well, they had to sell this idea of total control on people, and it started when I was very young. I don't know if you all remember the Alcoa ads, we can't wait for tomorrow. And it was pitched in many different ways across the world. And, again, this goes back to George F. Keenan. He's the godfather of enviromania, and he says, and remember, this guy's a eugenicist too. We just saw his quotes, in the earlier slide. So this guy's a eugenicist that's saying the great enemy, again, is not the Soviet Union. He was also the ambassador to the Soviet Union, by the way, under RFK. But the rapid deterioration of our planet as a supporting structure for civilized life. This is when I would have heard anybody else say this, this is a guy that's a known eugenicist. This guy believes that people should be killed just for who they are. So, and then we were sold fantasy all throughout the 70s, late 60s. We believed that we were going to buy land. Even now, people are, checking out like the sovereign citizens, and they're just going to grow pickles, and they're going to whatever. You don't grow pickles. You can tell them from the city. I don't know anything about farming, but you're not going to cash out. Okay, because the bottom line is that from their own admission, globalists believe that the earth is theirs, and they are its master, and there's no place to hide. So you're not going to just like cash out of this and then suddenly, you're just going to go do your thing. They have, by their own admission, say that we want to control all human activity. So this is their, so remember we were talking about too much government? Collectivism, this is a good picture for you to see. This is probably not what our founders were talking about when they wanted our country. They did not want a group of unpaid bureaucrats that cost each country millions of dollars to sit in rooms and talk about how we should live our lives. So let's look at what governs the World Economic Forum, and that is the Economic and Social Council of the UN, which is made up of 6 different divisions. 1, 2, 3, 6. And so, I'm a little slow on this. You see the first part is sustainable development. So when we talk about the UN, and I want to get out of the World Health Organization, that's like saying you want to shut down Walmart by getting rid of the electronics department. You just can't do it. It's a whole interconnected organization, and you can see where the World Health Organization down here. They're just a very small portion of the entire entity called the United Nations. The IMF is in here. The money portion of this, and we'll go into that a little bit later. And so ECOSOC serves as a central forum for discussing international economic and social issues and formulating policies and recommendations addressed to member states in the United Nations system. It has 54 members, in addition to a rotating membership of 54 UN members. So these are the guys that are the ones that are going to implement Klaus Schwab's plan, and to put in these ideas of sustainable development. So, and that's what we're going to talk about. Really dry. So at the Center of UN Development System, we conduct cutting-edge analysis, agree on global norms. So they're agreeing on global norms. So this is already, they're already by their own admission saying that they are a government. An advocate for progress. There's that word progress again. Obviously people aren't going to do anything if the government is there not telling them how to live their lives. So in order to advance sustainable solutions, the model of stakeholder capitalism was advanced by Klaus Schwab. And now we're going to talk about what is stakeholder development. If you go to any town website, you're going to see stakeholder involvement, stakeholder this, stakeholder that. It has a significant meaning to the globalists and to the World Economic Forum, because stakeholder capitalism, and you'll see, is not what you think it is. But somebody didn't come to this presentation because they thought that we were going to talk about some conspiracy that, somebody was trying to rob us of capitalism, as if though that's like the most important thing in the world. It's not. They actually want capitalism, but there's different forms, and everybody's a capitalist. So they created these 17 goals. This is like a guide system. It's a value system. It would be very hard to disagree with this. They want no poverty, no hunger, all equality, let's not harm the planet. All sounds really good, but the price that you have to pay is you have to give up your freedom. And so in essence, the Sustainable Development Goals are the New World Religion. So if you take a look at like a religion like Christianity, it has a set of values, morals, do's and don'ts, and with the United Nations, you have a very similar system set up. It is a replacement religion, and it's no mistake that when communists, and these people are just like any other collectivist organization, they don't want your religion to be what it is. That's why they have a World Council of Religion, because they want everybody's religion to be about the same, and they don't want any competition. That's what this is about. They don't want competition in beliefs, they don't want competition in values. And so whenever communists, for instance, go in, like Mexico, for instance, they went in, the Masons went in, and they just started killing all the Catholics. That's the first thing in the old days that that you could read a book. It's called Mexican War Zone. I forgot the author's name, Father Pichette, I think it is. And then there's another one called No God Next Door. I'm highly recommend you read those. But the point is that even like, let's even go further back under like Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck, under the Falk Laws, wanted all the teaching orders to be subject to the German state. And that's when you saw the influx of all the immigrants coming into America, like the Quakers and all the teaching orders, the Franciscans. There's a great poem about that whole time period called The Record of Deutschland, about all these people that died on the shoals off of New England, trying to escape, religious persecution. But that has always been the goal of oppressive governments, is to, say, well, we don't want competition in terms of belief systems because then we can't control you. So, and it is very much like religion, because you can go, and there's all these SDG platforms all over the UN website. You can go in and you can register your action. You can show and prove that you were a good person. You can go to your, look at this as a theology. You can go and tell these people, hey, look, I behaved myself, and you could prove yourself as well. So they have a platform. You can go register your actions to prove your worth. So around 2004, this blueprint for responsible investment, now called the Principles for Responsible Investment, Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations, brought all the wealthiest investors in the world. And he said, we need to have an investment system where people can get their money from to engage in sustainable development projects. And so, but you can become a PRI signatory. You have to fill out a form. You have to prove, once again, that you are going to abide by the wishes of the United Nations and sustainable development goals. And so, for businesses, you know, you had the Who Cares Wins conference. You can look this up. It was brought together by institutional investors, asset managers, buy-side and sell-side research analysts, global consultants, and government bodies and regulators to examine the role of environmental and social governance. In other words, how should people behave in our country? Who are they? And so these are conferences that are put together by the UN. You could read them. They'll tell you that this is so. Who cares wins? Think about that. If you're part of this group, you'll be fine. You can get your money. You can get for your business or whatever. It's very important for people to know this. But if you're not, if you don't agree to sell, like, you know, in some cases as silly as selling paper straws, you're not gonna be part of our. And this is a giant. You know, it's a big, you know, brotherhood of some kind. I don't know what it's a big club, and if you're not agreeing to it, you don't get the benefits of being in it. And so stakeholder involvement is really redesigning America through bribery. So I show up in your town, like we had in Owl's Head meeting, and I say, hey, listen, I got a bag of money, and guess what? It's $45,000, and as long as you do these 3 things that we want you to do, you're welcome to the rest of the money. And we're going to go into that a little bit later. So stakeholder stakeholder capitalism is literally government-controlled capitalism. And by definition, government-controlled capitalism is fascism. Now, some people would like to think that fascism is where we go around and we tell people what they can say or not say. Trump gets called a fascist, everybody gets called. It's a big word to use. They're not using it properly. Fascist, literally, they don't own it. The government doesn't own anything, but they control every other thing that you do with your organization. And so it negates natural rights. And this is, again, stakeholder development. You have the involvement of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, multinational corporations, and government, and the public-private partnerships. So let's talk about ICLEI, and this is a mechanism, one of the NGOs that exist all over the world. They are an international non-governmental organization that promotes sustainable development. ICLEI provides technical consulting to local governments to identify and meet sustainable objectives. ICLEI is considered a bridging organization, playing important roles in knowledge sharing and intermediation, process between local initiatives and regulatory actors. We're going to talk about that, what local initiatives and regulatory actors are, because if you go to your town's website, you can see a lot of this fun language. So in New Hampshire, you have 5 cities. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but let's just pretend like every one of these people, there's 3 people. So probably when you're, say like for the idea of like, well, how do we, we're Republicans, how do we win elections? How do we not be a blue state? Well, here's why, because these people have a different idea of government. It's more valuable to them, and it's influencing everybody around you. They don't like the idea of an independent government that promotes self-management and independence. They want more and more government control. So I told this out one time, but I don't remember. So let's look at what the vice chairman for ICLEI says. He said, individual rights will have to take a backseat to the collective. There's that word again. You'll see these guys using this word a lot. So it's their collective. ICLEI members are the heart of our network. They steer the direction of our work and shape our strategy and play a central role in governance structure. All our members are fully committed to sustainable urban development from their website. This is right from ICLEI's website. So this is a map of all the ICLEI cities throughout the world. And this is ICLEI in New England. So If you also can look, you know, just not trying to be partisan, but if you look at how people vote, if you look at the voting maps, you'll see that where Italy towns are, that's where you're gonna get primarily Democratic votes, and particularly in Maine. We're talking about, I would say, 50% of the population center of all of Maine is on the coast, and it's all controlled by the, you know, the belief systems of the globalists and the, you know, World Economic Forum. And so, NGOs always existed, but oh gosh, what day it was. I'm really having trouble seeing God, so I apologize. I gotta get better glasses. So, at a certain point in the United Nations, in the United Nations Charter, Chapter 10, Article 71, the authority for NGOs to exist and operate in a certain way was created. So NGOs, as they are now, exist at the behest of the United Nations. They get their permissions to, you know, do whatever it is that they do. And so non-governmental organizations that are generally formed independent of government, they are, you know, that's why this is really difficult, because we're saying, well, this isn't the government doing it, but these are highly influential, and you'll see lobbyists. 1945, so they've been around a while. And for what we're talking about, our form of government versus what these people believe about government, it's really NGOs are a mechanism of infiltration. Because, and I use the model of a virus because these organizations have no money of their own. They don't have anything, like, in other words, if we weren't giving them money, they wouldn't exist. So viruses are very much the same way. Without your DNA, without your material from your body, they can't do anything. Biologists actually question if viruses are alive, you know, whether they're part of the animal system at all. It's really something they have never answered. But, so what we have is, you have a large organizations that are trying to implement, these NGOs that are trying to implement the mechanisms of stakeholder capitalism that is coming directly from the United Nations. And the reason I mentioned the stuff about the administrative state is because every federal agency, not some, all, are now compliant with the ideas of sustainable development. There's not one. So these are just like words and doublespeak of globalists. They use stakeholder or stakeholder capitalism, actors or regulatory actors, rule-making, rule-taking, company or companies. So we discussed what stakeholder capitalism. Actors or regulatory actors are, you know, generally your state officials, your legislators, your mayors. Rule-making, rule-taking has to do with, we're going to insert this rule, we're going to take another one. Like, for instance, when they created, I don't have it written down, the mandates for having sustainable development goals in New Hampshire under they're called the revised annotated statutes of New Hampshire. And that's the kind of stuff they do, and they get a legislator to say, hey, pass this legislation. And what's fun about it is people in the freedom movement never notice it. They're like, oh, they're paying attention to all these polarizing issues, which is plenty of those, but they're not paying attention to the fact that they're literally changing the structure of government. So in like New Hampshire, you don't have home rule. You have that in Massachusetts, you have it in Maine. Here you have like Dillon's rule. And so once the state decides that you're going to have to follow the goals of sustainable development, they haven't codified it yet, but once they do, they already have it mandated that you have to join. You have to have a comprehensive plan. The only thing they haven't done is made a rule that you have to join one of these planning agencies. So Italy, our bridge gap, they bridge the gap is from their website. So again, regulatory actors, the selectmen, state legislators, council of governors, secretary of state, bureau of securities, regulation, and rotary clubs. Your local initiatives are your planning board, your planning committees, your charter committees of any kind whatsoever. like I said, this is just a little bit of a repeat. Companies are your NGOs, and for this conversation, and as far as Klaus Schwab is concerned, your NGOs are the company. And your companies are, you know, this is what Klaus Schwab talks about when he says company. You have to realize when he's talking, he's not talking to you or me on the streets. He's talking to the people that are around him, his, you know, people that are working on this initiative. So he says the company, meaning the NGOs, is not just an economic unit, it is a social organism which has to play its role inside society. This generation expects from a company not just to serve shareholders, but to take care of people and the planet. The company who keeps this in mind will have a much better talent in the future, will have much higher attractivity with its customers. Now, in the past, you know, the progressivists and globalists, which are not always the same, by the way, they would use what they would call shareholder capitalism, which is where they would, you know, a big company would come to town and they'd pump them full of money, and they'd say, well, this is going to help our economy, and that was like what shareholder, but they couldn't control that. They couldn't control the values, so they had to go down smaller. And when you think of like stakeholders at a local level, like all these businesses here in Nashua, if they are agreeing to this stuff, they're people that are planting their flag for an alternate form of government. That's why they call it stakeholder. So, stakeholder is fascism. I mixed up some of these slides, so as you can tell, I'm getting over a cold. So stakeholders can be a town, city, county business, and or person. And if you accept money from, you know, for the purposes of implementing SDGs, in the realest sense of the word, you're a fascist, because you're basically saying, I now work for the government. I now am beholden to them. I'm no longer independent operation. I'm willing to do that to your detriment. So even this research manual, I found this quote. They say that they use ICLEI as a guide all throughout the world. As you know, we theorize 4 different processes. They talk about regulatory field structurization, problematization, role specialization. They use a lot of big words, but basically ICLEI is the role model for the implementing of their plans in towns all across the world. So, taking a brief note here, the United Nations believes that rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purpose and principles of the United Nations. Now, a lot of people think about the Declaration of Human Rights with the United Nations and go, oh, that sounds great, everybody. But in the long form of it is that you can't do anything that's contrary to the United Nations. You have all these things unless we disagree with it at the time. Versus what the Declaration of Independence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Governments that institute among men deriving their just power from the consent of the government. So in other words, these are inalienable rights. You can't take them away. Nobody can take them away. They're yours. Government, in other words, government doesn't grant rights, which is another problem that we have with understanding our form of government, is that when you hear people talking, they're like, well, give me my rights. And it's very easy. We've been broken up into classes of people, understandably so, because certain groups of people have been hurt. It doesn't matter who they are at some point. However, when we start going into a certain group's rights, that means that we now grant rights to people. And that's a very dangerous place to be, for obvious reasons our founders never talked about. So the summary here is that the United States, as a member of the United Nations, accepted the abolition of our way of life and its version of our government to it. There's no other way around it. Membership in the United Nations is saying that your form of government is not valuable to us. We want to replace it with our own. So, you can look on everybody's website. Portsmouth, they're a sustainable city. They decided as a community with the completion of 2005 master plan to become a green, sustainable, and ecologically friendly city in order to safeguard the future. I don't know how they're going to do that, but they believe they can. Now, I want to tell you something. I am an environmentalist. I do not believe in poisoning the environment. I think that that's criminal. Okay? I think there should be stricter laws about polluting the environment, and I believe that for the longest time. Especially I'm from New Jersey. We had 5 of the most toxic waste sites in America were in New Jersey. I don't know, guys ever saw that movie, The Toxic Avenger. But anyway, I am an environmentalist. I don't believe that we've done anything to stop the destruction of the planet at all. I was a tree hugger. I understand environmentalism. Sustainable development to me, while I appreciate it, whether or not we eat out of a plastic straw or a paper straw, I don't think it's going to matter. But anyway, now this whole city is bent on becoming a sustainable city. They have their own committee. Again, more collectivism. We need another committee. Go to any town website. You'll see that they have thousands of committees. People love to make committees to control, to busy themselves with you. Basically, the UN is a homeowners association on steroids, and so this is the kind of stuff that I'm trying to get people to see, is that we have too much government, and people are prone to, would cities just suddenly implode if we have Kittery, Maine has 10,000 people in it. They have over 45 committees governing the affairs of that town. Does anybody think that's ridiculous? That's just me. So, on their website, Portsmouth says, a member of ICLEI, International Council on Local Development Initiatives. Portsmouth is part of an association of cities and countries committed to climate action. So, oops, sorry. Okay. I'm just using these as examples. You can go through every town. Durham is another town that's there. They're also part of the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. And what's really great about being part of some of these organizations too, is you get access to grants, particularly like the World Bank, for instance. So your town joins, and now you can just start borrowing money against the treasury of the town for your needs and wants. And so really, if your town doesn't have money to build a road, your town is broke. That's how America used to be. Your town is broke. There was no such thing as, oh, we're going to borrow money, grant money from everybody, because when you get a grant, that's federal money that was printed at the Federal Reserve, at the Treasury, and now everybody is going to pay for your sustainable playground or whatever it is, and so the whole country gets taxed as a whole. And we have a town in Maine that has 900 people, and they started selling their land to a conservation developer, and they came to me and they said, well, we lost all our rights, what do we do? Well, leave the organization. Your town has 3 houses and a porta potty. I mean, towns die, civilizations die. But yet now in America, cities are kept alive by grant money, particularly like places like Nashville. And you just have to take a quick look at their budget, and 90% of it is coming from the federal government. They are not producing their own wealth. Let's just say that. Okay, most of the major cities in America are not producing any of their own wealth for any private basic structural infrastructure needs that they have. So, Durham, they like to outsource their authority. This lady, Rafida Roman, she is part of the Good Energy LP. They're out of Boston. She's an engagement strategist of sustainability. She looks for it to encourage the town to, build windmills, do carbon capture, and so they bring these people in as advisors, and they're all coming up in with technology. It's coming from guys that are just, solar panels don't work. We know that you're not going to, this is not a proven technology, and yet we're willing to take this risk for our planet, and yet at the same time we're saying we love our planet. It doesn't make any sense. So again, Concord, you can, if you belong to the city of Concord and their Rotary Club, they'll give you access to all kinds of grants. They'll teach you how to make grants. They'll teach you what you need to know in order to get the money that you need. So we had one representative here, selectman, that said no to the ARPA money. Now, if you look at the agreements with ARPA, when you take federal money, it always comes up with a with a condition, and it says, and the third one is to assist the United States government in the implementation and enforcement of federal orders related to quarantine and isolation. So now I walk with people, freedom marches, these guys, they hate Joe Biden. Joe Biden is evil, but Joe Biden handed them that that ARPA money, they cash the check. So it's just, so don't tell me you hate Joe Biden, because you're willing to participate in that form of government with him. And so, again, this is not meant to be partisan in any way. So, part 3, I don't know what I did here. My wife likes to do these slides where they pop up and stuff. She'll mess around with my slides all day long. So, the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, global NGOs work through towns to achieve sustainable goals, right? You see that. Imagine Authority is being created in New Hampshire by the United Nations using NGOs. So it's an imagined authority. They don't have the authority, but people think they do. By the way, towns in New Hampshire do not have to join one of the planning commissions. However, once you join the planning commission, you're obligated, your town, to all the conditions that go with it. Another organization in New Hampshire, actually in New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, is the Northern Border Regional Commission. This is an organization set up to filter money to the states in the form of grants and loans, and your towns, like in Maine, you can join what they call local development districts, okay? So these are addition to the planning commissions. These are local development districts, and you can join one of these. They tried to come out to Owl's Head, and they said, no, we don't want your money. And so we're wrestling with like MidCog, Midcoast Council of Government, all those people over there. But this is just a separate entity that is pushing money through a certain federal agency. In this case, it was I think Farm Bill under Obama. And but there are many regional commissions that are made up of local development districts. They're not respecters of towns, they're not respecters of counties. They don't care, because once they are created, these like MidCog or the Kennebec Council of Governments, which is my town, is part of the Maine. There's no county boundaries. Again, remember I was talking about the loss of checks and balances? So think about like the Appalachian Regional Commission was created under Lyndon P. Johnson in Green. That is comprised of 426 counties. So what are you teaching people when you tell them that the government is there to give you money? They're always going to vote a certain way. They're always going to vote for their own dependence on government. And that's how you do this. More importantly than anything, it's not whether to say that towns and states can't help their people in a charitable way, to initiate programs that are cost-effective and merciful. But this isn't that. This is money that comes straight from the federal government, and as long as we give you the money, we know who you're going to vote for. So these are a list of your local development districts. This is some of them. You have the Mount Washington Valley Economic Commission. These are the towns that are part of it. These have nothing to do with your counties. These are ordinances. You join the NDRC. Again, you're in the club. You get access to grants and money and stuff like that. You can pick it up. You have 6 districts. You have the Upper Valley Lakes, Sonobe Regional Planning Commission. Now, again, they did this to help distressed businesses, distressed regions. And you can see from the next slide that this is not really what they're doing. The Twin Lake Make Spaces Incorporated, maybe that might be the Hanson Ski Club project, $437,000. This doesn't sound like a distressed organization. This isn't like a home for, like orphan children that are being beaten to death or something like that, or in a factory. This isn't money, the Park Theater project. How does that help society? $608,000 or whatever it is, yeah, $608,000. So the point is that these programs, while sometimes well intended, always get abused. So when we start out saying, hey, we want to help people, somebody says, guess what, I'm going to abuse it. I'll give you another example. You go down to like Attleboro, Massachusetts. The median income is $155,000 a year, something like that. But guess what they do? And just like in Kittery, same thing. They go, oh, well, they change their zoning laws. They get money from HUD to build little houses. Really, in essence, slave quarters. Because guess what? The poor people can't live in Kittery. The poor people can't live in Attleboro. So, but they have to have somebody to run their shops. So they build little houses, like little slave quarters, just like George Washington had on his plantation, And, and it's just so hypocritical. And these people will say, oh, well, we're Republican. It's like, I don't think so. You know, everybody's doing the same thing, and they talk about a uniparty. This isn't a uniparty, this is a unit value. This is a value that Americans have they have embraced and left behind other things. And very few people are willing to think of an America that is really what we should be. We should be taking care of each other, but we don't. We just let the government do it, and then we create classes of people, and then we argue with each other about who's going to get the money and who's more important. So, New Hampshire has 9 regional planning commissions. I was just talking about that. So your town doesn't have to join that. I would encourage you to get out of it and make your own planning. Apparently, towns didn't fall apart in one time in America before they were part of the planning commission. People actually built roads and did things and had stores, But now, Matthew Harrington, Republican from New Hampshire, says you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. They're lying to people in Maine. They're coming in like MidCog and they're saying, oh, well, it's state law that you have a comprehensive plan. You're going to charge them $30,000 for it. And it's like nowhere in state statute, it's nowhere in state law, but it's on their website. And I called them up and I said, clearly you guys are lying. You're going to people and you're scaring people in their towns, selectmen, with these threats to say that they have to have this. They have to give you money. So here it is. You wouldn't even exist if you didn't have towns joining your unconstitutional organization. So New Hampshire does have a comprehensive plan. The Office of Planning and Development, the OPD in New Hampshire, is managed by the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs. Specifically, it is part of BEA's division responsibility for guiding and overseeing the state's planning effort, including comprehensive state development plan. So every planning commission has a different plan in New Hampshire, and each one has a different set of regulation. However, they are all overseen by the American Planning Association. And so you can look up this is their dictionary, this is what their words mean. So if you go into your town, like the NRPC, and you're looking at what their planning means, you can go here, and they all use the same language. And if they have to change your laws in your state, your legislative laws in New Hampshire, well, guess what? They have a legislative guidebook so that they can come in, they can teach lobbyists to go in, go up here to Concord and start talking to your state legislators to get them to, change the laws that they need to get things going in the way they want. Very much in the same way Wiley Publishing does, the research there. And so American Planning Association has Planners Day. They are lobbyists. They are constantly working in Congress to change the Constitution. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. In Massachusetts, the selectmen are now taking an oath to the town charter. They're not taking an oath to the Constitution. So the intent that these people are trying to change our law is very clear. Remember we talked about the consent of the government, about too much government. That's what America was about. It was about boundaries and permissions. Boundaries and permissions. Well, we're losing those. National Regional Planning Commission had a COVID economic recovery plan through the EDA. I got a lot more to get through, so I'm going to try to. It's all very dry information. It's all findable, but understand too that this stuff is this is a part of a setup of regional American, cross, just like we're crossing counties with the LDDs and the planning commissions, we are crossing state lines now. And America, I'll show you here that America was broken up into, national regions. So MAPC is a lobbying group, a planning group out of Boston. They have a climate action plan. They work with the state of New Hampshire to, why, I don't know, I guess it's because it's part of the mega region that they're in, to influence our lobbying. You can see them if you go to any of these town meetings, they're there. They're saying you need to have this, you need to have this roundabout, you need to have smaller sidewalks. If you spend any time in New Hampshire going to a planning commission, these guys are there and they're telling you have to get these, it's required, they're lobbyists. And these are stakeholders in New Hampshire that are also in Massachusetts that are part of the MAPC. So, you know, Derry, Hudson, Kingston, London, Derry. So they're already crossing your state borders. This is more the government affairs team, works with Mark Road, local level. We get through some of the dry stuff, but this is part of like, when you see like towns, companies like MAPC, you understand that they are part of a trend that began back in 1972 to create these 10 emerging meta regions, which were first started by President Nixon. Executive Order 11647, hereby established a federal regional council for each of the 10 standard federal regions. Each council shall be composed of directors, regional officers, and without so much as consulting Congress, he did this with an executive order. He broke up America into Nixon's Federal Regional Council. And so his quote here is that the proper functioning of government requires the development of closer working relationships between major federal grant-making agencies and state and local government and improve coordination. So this stuff has been in the plan to restructure our government to get the states dependent on federal money for a very, very long time. And so these are your 10 regions in America. This one up here is part of Alaska. So, and you can see here, this is two of the, Boston's there. So I just put this down for people that like to take pictures to show you the relationship between, with the agencies and their, their SDG goals and ESG goals with the USDA, the EDA, and all these other organizations. So, so in the real sense of the word, like if we look at what our country is, now you can say that you don't like our country, you don't like our form of government, you can say that, that's fine. For the real fact is that we are being influenced by the CFR, which created the United Nations. They go and they implement policy at Washington, and they bring their rules and their laws, and they use federal money to filter out to the cities and the people. Now that's a fact. That's the Great Reset. So in 1976, the UN Conference on Human Settlements, private land ownership is a principal instrument of accumulation and concentration of wealth. Very Marxist to me. Private property presents a danger to the planet. This is from their own United Nations own words. So they want to get rid of private property. There's no question about it, by their own words. So they create values. They say land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset controlled by individuals. Private land ownership also is a principal instrument of accumulation and concentration of wealth. Therefore, it contributes to social injustice. And that's the United Nations Habitat Conference in 1976. And Thomas Lovejoy of the Department of the Interior says we will map the whole system, determine development for the whole country, and regulate it all. Now, the Department of Interior also includes the Bureau of Indian Affairs, right? So, what did they do to the Indians? They put them on plantations, they put them on reservations. This is your town as the United Nations sees it. In fact, you go to HUD's website, they have little smart towns that you live in. They want pursue environmental justice, that kind of thing. So HUD is a major contributor to all these sustainable development goals. But remember, these are the same people that put the Indians in reservations, so what they're really building are vivariums for humans. They don't want you to have private property. You want to be controlled like an animal. We touched on that in the beginning. Okay, that, with, I can't remember, it was at least 20 minutes ago that I read it. So, anyway, so in my estimation, they're just building vivariums for humans. And everybody knows what a vivarium is. If you haven't seen the movie, you should see it. I mean, that's what made me put that in there. But it sounds benevolent, but it's not, it's all part of Agenda 21. But that's the whole thing. You have to be sold a value to embrace it. And unfortunately, just like with the devil, they take good ideas and they're corrupted, and So what I recommend is for those of you that don't like collectivism, is that I would say the first line of defense is to remove all non-elected officials and cancel any membership the towns have with NGOs or any other pseudo-governmental bodies. This is, again, we'll go back into permissions and no town and elected officials should outsource any responsibilities to non-elected body or person or use them as advisors. Towns don't have the authority. I elected you. I didn't tell you to go ask somebody else. That would be like you elected me and I'm like talking to my wife every day. What do you think I should do? I can have advisors, but I have a whole organization. So another thing that we have problems with, even Republicans do too, and I'm picking on Republicans because they tend to be the most proud about who they are, and they're really no different than Democrats. To me, I'm an American. I don't care about parties. But borrowing money against the credit of the town is not illegal, should be, as it is a violation of the Fifth Amendment. You cannot deprive people of personal property without fair trial. And if you're in a town and you got somebody saying, hey, we all want roads, and I've heard people say it to me, I've talked to selectmen, well, my town wanted a new road. Did you have the money? No, we didn't. So what'd you do? We borrowed it from, the IMF or something like that. So you borrowed money against the credit of the town, which you don't have the authority to do. Okay, so that's the other issue that we get into, is that we think that we elect people to carry out our will. That's another part of our a fallacy of being an American. We don't elect people to carry out our will and our tyranny. We elect people to protect our rights in the Constitution. Actually, we should remove all town managers and elected officials and agencies and return to our Republican form of government at the town level. So we're working on this in Maine, is that if you have a town that is basically saying, we're going to have a ballot initiative and nobody's going to say no to money, right? So they do it democratically. They go, well, 51% of the people can agree to it, then they make 49% of the people have to agree. So we're trying to make it so it's a major, bye Bernie, good seeing you.
See you, Matt.
You're missing the important part. We're going to get into stuff that's really exciting. It's going to be,
Gotta go to work.
there's dancing bears coming up anyway, so there are solutions for freedom. I would recommend, if you don't have these two books, to get these, to learn about what sustainable, we have an activist handbook that we sell, and I would also recommend people reading Global Tyranny Step by Step, United Nations Exposed, and also the Blue Book, which for some reason it didn't pop up. Oh, there it is now. And so we have reprints of this, The New American, Make America States Again. Remember, we created the federal government, they didn't create it. That's a value that we have to read. So when we look at this, look at all these agencies, right, that collectivism we talked about in the beginning, really behind the whole thing, the National Government Association didn't touch that this time. It's all part of the UN. So I'm just gonna, and this is just for just to let you know that my pictures are, copyrighted by GQ. I'm just kidding. And so, just so you know, and have any questions, you can reach me at MatthewRose431@gmail.com. So, and that's it. So I hope that made sense to you all. And I'm going to go ahead and close this down. And who has any questions? Anybody speak up too, because I'm kind of deaf. Yes, sir.
I can't tell, after all of the things that you've presented, whether you'd like to have as many planning groups as you seem to imply there are, and I suspect there are thousands and thousands. Would you like to see
97,000 planning agencies in America, by the way.
Would you like to have more or less?
Less.
In other words, do you really think that all these planning groups are necessary?
I don't think they're necessary at all. I don't think they're necessary at all.
So all of these planning groups that you're talking
Do you have
about,
a question about the presentation, or are you just going to ask me what my philosophy is? I'm just curious, what's your question?
I thought it was pretty clear.
Okay, so you're asking me about the planning agencies? I don't think America needs this much government as people think we do. I think people can be self-regulating and do the things that are right, and take care of each other in the necessary ways possible. That's what I believe about America. I don't think we need more structures to create more rules. I think the less rules are better. The less rules we have.
You understand, I can hardly hear what you're saying, you're talking so softly.
Less rules are better than more rules. Less control is better than more control, always. That's what I believe. But I do believe people are obligated to be moral and not allow, we run into these situations sometimes because people do forget to take care of their fellow man. And so like Paul Harvey once says that when people don't behave, they'll be forced to behave. And so this is what happens is, like as Americans, we sometimes, we just keep creating more and more agencies to do the things that, you forgot your jacket by the way. We create more and more agencies to do the things that people should be naturally doing with each other. And people, I'll give you an example. Talking to a guy who's running for office as a Democrat up in Bangor, and he says, well, people can't be trusted to take care of each other. So there are people that believe that if you don't do these things, people are going to be out of control and hurtful to one another. But the truth is even in all these rules that we have, we still have poverty, we still have slums, we still have governments bombing each other all the time. We still have evil. People are not going to stop being evil. You can make 1 million agencies, and people are, what we need are more laws that are punitive, particularly as an environmentalist. If you're going to, tell people and slap them on the hand for pumping toxic waste in the ground, but at the same time saying like your restaurant has to have, paper straws, I mean, that's a profound hypocrisy. Our laws in terms of the environment, we should have done this. We didn't do this because, the EPA was passed, and that was basically like to coddle the leftists at the time, for lack of a better word, so Nixon passed it. But really, there was nothing punitive about, you go look at the EP laws and punishments for polluting the environment, they're a joke. So yeah, I'm all for protecting the environment. I'm all for restrictions on, what corporations can do to our environment. The fact is that we let it go for a long time, and now we're saying the planet's in trouble. Well, these are the same corporations that created these problems in the first place. These are the same corporations that they knew what they were doing. They knew when they were dumping toxic waste into our ground. They were poisoning our food, our land, our soil with pesticides and GMOs. They're still doing it. They're still poisoning us. We have all these planning agencies, and all of that evil is still happening. Yes, sir.
So would you say that all these organizations and planning boards and committees are all to bankrupt us and force us into these 15-minute jail cells?
Yeah, I believe it's a tax burden that we can't afford. We just can't afford it. We'd like to say that we have the money, but we really don't. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I actually have 2 questions.
All right.
One is a clarification question.
What's that?
One was a clarification question. So earlier you had said about the COVID funding and basically the quarantine camps, and it made me think of New York. Is that why Hochul was able to get away with the legislation to put those camps in place? Was the funding? That's the clarification question.
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. But my other question is, so this was a lot of really great information. And there's a lot of topics that you covered, a lot of these different planning committees, things like that. My biggest question is as an everyday person, right? Now, obviously, I traveled from out of state, but a lot of this is applicable no matter where you live in the United States. So if I were to go home, and let's just say I wanted to do something to really implement change in my town, what would be your recommendation? Like, where would someone start first if they were to go back to their town and say, okay, I want to make a difference? What would you recommend? Where would you recommend they start? If that makes sense.
I know it does. Well, we were having a good conversation about this on the way here. That, we sometimes wonder like what to talk about, right? And we don't know what our value system is when we do start talking. And so some people say, oh, well, we got to obey the Constitution, or, you don't have the right to do that. For me, I think there's a universal thing that we can all agree on, and that's money. And the first thing I like to prove to people is that your town can't afford what it's doing, and that burden is being felt by everybody in our country. Particularly for, your bigger cities, which tend to be a burden on the rest of the country, because they no longer can provide for themselves anymore. So for me, how do I begin making a difference? The first step is always to start educating people about a value. What is the value? What is it that you want to talk about? You can talk about the Constitution all day long, it's not going to make a difference to most people, but everybody understands higher taxes. They understand that they can't live in their homes. They understand that there's a class of people that are treated like royalty. And I mean, give me an example, like policemen, state legislators in Massachusetts, for instance, they can serve for 8 years and they get $90,000 a year. To me, that's a royal class of people. Is that class envy? Of course it is, because where are we to think that we can always support this level of government that we have? We need flexibility. In any business, you need flexibility. You need the ability to say that, oh, this thing is rare, it's not a commodity. So that's what I do. Anytime I talk to anybody, I'm not really there. I think there's hypocrisy on both sides. I was a Democrat for a long time. I always cared about the environment, and I found that the Democrats weren't taking care of the environment either. I wanted to look about freedom, and I found that the Republican parties, they don't care about freedom either. And so what I discovered was that, but what has really been happening is that they actually believe that there's a difference between the two. And it's not that it's a uniparty, that they just all have the same value, that we need more government. That's the unifying value in America. You can talk about abortion, immigration laws, but the fact is nobody ever wants to talk about practical economics. Can we afford to do what we're about to do? In the John Birch Society, we have an expression. We say, less government, more responsibility. And with God's help, a better world. None of this is going to happen. John Adams said that our government was not made for a corrupt people. It was only made for moral and righteous people. So we can't do this without living our lives properly and moral. Okay? Some for Jesus Christ, some for others. For me, it's Jesus Christ. So we can talk about how much we want to change, but if we're sitting watching pro football all day Sunday, and or going to worship some guy that's appearing in Washington and spending $8,000 and then we come back to our towns and we go, oh, we don't have any money to give to the conservative candidate or for the good guy. Yeah, you did. You just went to a rally and spent $20,000 for it, right? Went to D.C. And so we have the money to take care of each other. We don't have the organization to do it. We become a different type of people. So that would be the other thing I encourage. Like, for instance, one of my Republican legislator and I are going to start food farms in every town with land that will be donated to us, and we can feed all the poor. With the amount of land that we have in Maine, even in most states, there's no reason for anybody to be starving. The problem is that we have zoning laws. You can't grow this. It can't be this far. It can only be this. You can't. It's ridiculous. Like we can take care of the poor, but we don't want to because we want to watch football. We want to go to church for a half hour, say a couple prayers, and run out the door and go shopping for 3 hours. So none of this happens without people deciding to change their lives. And here's the other thing. The government was never set up for the states to take care of the towns. And so you have all these people that are saying things like, oh, I want freedom, and I totally want freedom, but okay, you want freedom, really? Okay, well that means that your town doesn't have the money. All right, so that's why you'll argue with these people about, oh, we're going to sue the state, like in Massachusetts. Well, you're suing them to give them the privilege that they didn't have in the first place, and now you're going to complain that it doesn't work that way. You can't have it both ways. You can't say I want freedom, but I don't want responsibility. To be free, you have to be responsible. And that's what we need in America. People say things like, we need revival in our churches. Go revive your church. Don't talk to me about it. Don't, get on TV and say, we have to have the Bible in public schools. Go bring your Bible to school and walk around and read it at break. Or, when you go to your college or whatever it is, don't tell everybody, like that's what conservatives tend to do. They don't do anything until they get somebody else to do it for them. And so, whereas Democrats, for what people want to say is that they are organized. I used to work for the NAACP. They are organized. They take care of people. They know who's poor. They know who has money. They are intimately concerned with their community. Okay? We don't do that as Republicans. or whatever you call us, us freedom people. So we want freedom without the cost. You know, and then, but we'll wave a flag and drive up and down 95 saying F Joe Biden and I love Trump, but we don't feed our neighbor? Come on. You know, that God's not going to give to our country what we do not deserve. That, and it's going to deserve, and nothing will change until we change our hearts. So this is why we have, and as some people use liberal, leftist, really it's progressivist. People like Charles Merriam, they created the government they did, because look at what happened. Look at where he was writing at the turn of the century. No sooner did we get rid of slavery. We fought the Civil War, we got rid of slavery, bam, we got child labor in factories. Got them right up here. Right? What is this, the Merrimack River with all those factories? You can read books on it. The ghost of the children of the Osage, whatever it's called. Okay? We killed American Indians. We do all these things, and we go, you know, well, I want freedom. You know, my guy's going to win for me, and he's going to take. Well, see, this is the problem that we do. We don't have a value that says, what does freedom really mean? So we go, we want to be reawakened. We want to be awoke. We want liberty. You could go like, you get one of the meme generators, the name generators that you see on like Facebook, like what's the color of your shirt that you wore last and what you ate, and then you have like the Liberty Freedom Alliance group, you know, of sovereignty or something like that. And so Americans have a problem with language. What are you really trying to restore? You're trying to restore the checks and balances, the permissions and boundaries that America had, that America was created on. That's what it is. It's not a special privilege for one class of people, you know, I don't know, Irish people, fat people like me, you know, just rights are for everybody, universal across the board. It doesn't mean that we don't care about them, but you know, when we talk about like homosexual rights, they'll say, well, what about gay rights? Well, what are you talking about? Like, are you saying that, well, married people get all these privileges? Well, they shouldn't. The government should not be have anything to do with marriage, because it's a private contract between two people, and between two people and God. So the government steps into everything that it wants to control. It wants to control the value of people, how they treat each other, what they are. When you say the word, gosh, I'm having trouble with English today. Maybe I'll just start speaking in Swahili. I don't know. The government wants to, if they like, okay, let's take an example for like abortion. This isn't really about the government cares about killing babies or, you know, this is about they don't want to take care of children born out of wedlock. They don't want to take care of beginning of life expenses. And so now, and I said this in the early 70s, you're going to see where they're going to start encouraging euthanasia. Because they don't want to take care of the end of life expenses. And if you look at a group of people that's the most neglected, it's the elderly. You go to a nursing home, and I've seen horror shows. I was a nursing student for 3 years. I've seen horror shows in nursing homes. They don't care about the elderly because guess what? They're not making any money off of them. That's all there is to it. They do not care about the elderly. It's about, so they're only going to, government, the progressives, the people that are running our country are only going to encourage policies that benefit them. And whatever is the least expensive to them. So this is something that we have to realize, that if we don't begin taking care of each other in some way, shape, or form, and there's some hybrid idea that, you know, come out there, but the checks and balances is nonsense, because I can tell you what, we all can agree about money. Of people that live like royalty. Now, is this class envy? Of course it is. Because there's nothing in our Constitution that says that we should have this ruling elite class. I mean, my ex-wife was the head of Social Security. I can tell you, I had the best benefits of anybody I knew. I had the same benefits as Bill Clinton. Okay? Bill Clinton was in my house. And I used to feel terrible about that. I used to go out and sit and eat and be like, wait a second, what about the American taxpayers? So I stopped going. I stopped going to these events because you know why? I'm not going to take somebody's hard-earned money, some guy, you know, wiping windows, on a skyscraper, like facing death every 5 minutes, because I can, like, a $300 salary or something like that. In class of that privileged idea that we are a valued system that is owed everything, and I think we should be complaining about that more than,
if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, please.
All right, so maybe the problem here is you're saying you don't wanna we shouldn't take federal money, we shouldn't take grant money. But maybe we need to go back in history.
To what?
In history, like we used to do things in some of these small towns and communities, how we used to build our own schools and,
Yeah.
police stations and fire stations by donations, by fundraising, and by getting the tradesmen building it.
That's what they used to do in Pennsylvania, some of the small towns I lived in. It's like they needed a new road that went through this guy's farm. So they all got out their equipment and they repaved this entire like 20-mile road with their own money. And then when it snowed in that town, all the guys, tractors, it was so, and they're like, like a bunch of kids playing with their Tonka toys, It was just,
I live in Amish country, so.
right,
I'm
so
I'm laughing.
and so there is a way for us to take care of it, we just don't want to do that. So that's really, you have to stop the alienation first. And to me, partisan politics is polarizing. That's the greatest danger too. So what happens when Republicans get elected?
Well,
You gotta go get them, It's like,
do you have any hope, so I guess, in conjunction with what you were just saying here, like, you have the income, and I'm kind of remembering something you said earlier about the president could do away with all of the NGOs, right? Isn't it, like, in the very beginning of the presentation, did I catch that correctly?
say that again?
When you said about the president could eliminate all the NGOs?
You can eliminate all the federal departments.
So now, with this Department of Governmental Efficiency, do you think that might be something that
That's
they
no
might
different than
implement?
what, no, because that's exactly what Nixon did. It's exactly what what they did after FDR. They said, we have to make them more efficiency. They're just using different language. It's the same thing. Donald Trump is not gonna talk about how they're unconstitutional. Okay, guaranteed.
Say that again.
Donald Trump is never gonna talk about these departments being unconstitutional. No president is going to abolish the Administrative Procedures Act or the executive office of the presidency. It's never going to happen. Yes,
But we could call them out over the airwaves.
what's that?
I said you can go on the airwaves and call it out.
I have been calling it
No,
out.
but
haven't
I
been going to
mean,
be-
I'm not saying you, we the people.
Right.
Not just you, it takes all of us saying it.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
Make them
like,
accountable.
Or you don't have to shout it out. You can just simply ask questions. That's the best way to do it. You say, well, okay, is this guy a constitutionalist? Well, no. Okay, well then don't tell me you're telling me the Constitution can be, scratched for whatever reason. Your hero says it's okay, right? So don't tell me that the Democrats scratch the Constitution when it's free, whenever they want to, because your Republicans are doing the same thing. And so none of these federal agencies are constitutional. Everybody knows that. But they're going to make them more efficient. That's not, to me, a good sign. He's giving the blessing, put it in his hands.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask what your take was on that, because, when you hear the general discussion, everybody's all excited about this department, right? And you're telling us today, like, that tidbit of information that the president could eliminate all the government agencies with like a stroke of a pen.
Because he's in charge of the executive office of the
I
president.
guess, I thought about it, but I never really thought about it before today. It was a cool piece of
He said he was going to get
information.
rid of Obamacare. He didn't do that.
Well, right, and that's why.
He just actually codified it. He said, oh no, I have to make it look better. So I'm going to tell you something. Let's look at the world of values, right or wrong, okay? The world of values. In 4 years, the Republican Party is not going to be discernible from any, Democratic organization. The only difference in politics now you'll see is in the extremes. That's really what we have. And so we tend to judge each other based on the extremes about the things, but we never judge each other on the things that really matter. And so, the John Birch Society, we're called extremists, but we're the ones saying, follow the Constitution because you get rid of 80% of the waste of the government. But Donald Trump's not saying that. Donald Trump is saying, well, I'm just going to make them healthier and better. And there's no difference in what he's doing with the stakeholder capitalism of Klaus Schwab. He's basically saying, you're going to have to behave a certain way. Wait till you see my presentation on transitional justice. It'll blow you away. The transitional justice system of the UN is Donald Trump's dope system. It's the same thing. And so, you know, you get into arguments with people because, again, we've been trained to believe we need a hero, we need Barabbas. Okay, who did they kill? They killed Jesus. They wanted to liberate him. The Jews wanted to liberate him, so they said, crucify Christ, give us this guy that's going to make everything better for us. And that's how we live our political lives. But I know the body cannot endure with the, no, how's that? The mind cannot endure what the body can endure, so I need to wrap stuff up. But am I making any sense to you?
Yeah, no, that was perfect. Thank you.
And Megan is always trying to kill me. She locked the wheels on this next time. So I thank you very much. I am just getting over a cold, so I apologize. I'm usually a lot more animated and do cartwheels and stuff, so it's a lot of fun. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to come out. I'm sure you find other things to do this close to the holidays. In the back, if you need anything for the ride home, snacks, water, there's a couple pamphlets over there that are for free. There's issues of the magazine, older issues that are free. Take them if anything looks interesting. There's some recommended books over there. There's a QR code with recommendations on where to get them from. We can't sell books inside the library, but so those are just recommendations that kind of are based off of some of the information that Matt provided. So I do thank you all for coming out tonight, and this afternoon we will do it.
Well, I have to talk to this young lady with the grace letter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
All right, so guys, I want to just show you some of the literature over here, so you can see what they have out here. Actually, I am going to snag some of this, I think, for some reading material. But there's some slogans there: no farmers, no food, Trump world, the future of tech, making America sick. So this is actually pretty cool here. We're going to grab some of those so we can actually read some and get educated. Now, these are some of those books he was talking about in the presentation today, right? And here's some more of those pamphlets. So I am going to grab some of that stuff so we can check that out a little bit later. Again, this was a really, really informative. Ooh, we got to fix the camera there. Sorry. Really, really informative presentation. Really great. Awesome. So I am going to grab some of that stuff. Guys, I'm going to end this live. That way I can get all packed up, get out to the car. We can. I know that Wayne's out there with Rio right now. But then I will go live again in a little bit for the drive back so that we have some time to discuss everything that we just learned today and talk about this great event. So again, I am going to see you guys in probably a half an hour to an hour. We're going to turn off this live. Make sure you go back, rewatch this, check it out. Let's talk about it. Let's see what questions you guys have or what thoughts you guys have. I cannot wait to hear about them, and I will talk to you guys soon. So see you in about an hour or so, guys.